wisdom is about a moment in which you're experiencing something and you have trillions of different variables that you have to wade through. That wisdom's the ability to walk confidently, but also curiously in those moments.
Welcome back to The Culture Base. I'm Dustin. He's Blake. We are The Culture Base. Episode 110. We're talking about walking or running. Who's to say? Sashaying maybe through hard times as a team. It is the middle of June. I'm not sure where the year is gone. Maybe that's the problem that you need to deal with. But we'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to remind you that we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get them there. You can find out more about how we can help you and your team at The Culture Base. That's BASE.com. So today, Blake, we're talking all about navigating hard times as a team, right? Because anyone can build culture when things are going super well, right? That's the easy times. You can be like, yes, this is a win. It's a win. It's a win. You ride that momentum. But the real test comes, right, when friction happens. That's when we can find out how durable and how withstanding our culture really is. And so today I wanted to kind of take a story approach throughout our points as some like real lessons that we've learned along the way. And we're both business owners, Blake and I. Blake's been in business a lot longer than I have, has a bigger team than I have. So I thought, well, I'm sure Blake has many stories like this. But I know one that's really powerful that we want to get into first to kind of give us our narrative through how we lead our teams through these hard times, Blake.
Yeah, I think first off, you said something a second ago that I think a lot of people probably could miss, where like, hey, it's really, your culture is really defined in the hard times, but in the easy times, it's not hard. The problem is in the easy times, we don't take advantage of building the culture the way we probably should build it. And in the hard times, you just have no option. And you either sink or swim in those moments. And the thing about business and being around other people is there are the moments that like hard time. Everyone knows hard times are going to come. Okay. Like if you don't, I'm really sorry to break your paradigm right now, but like
it's like Ramsey says, it's not if it's going to rain, it's when
exactly.
It's going to rain.
It will rain. You will go through hard times. Things will fail. Yeah, none of this is on a bumper sticker, but basically all of this hard stuff, there are those things you kind of expect to experience in business, like, hey, cash flow is going to get really hard, or sales aren't going to be there, or, people leaving on your ops team or whatever else. Like you have those moments that like your brain could forecast that it could happen. And then you have those times that just hit you and wreck you that nobody would have expected that said thing to happen. For us, we've experienced all the above. And 4 or 5 years back, we had a military veteran who worked for us who took his own life. And in the midst of him not showing up for work, it was just like everything started going down. And the way to see how that hit our team, and when you have a close-knit culture and what happens there, like how do you respond in those moments? What do you do to step in and say the right things or do the right things? And by the way, I don't know that this is not going to be here are the right things to say and do in a hard time, because that's not true. There is nothing. That is not wisdom. If you do it the same way over and over and you're like, oh, this is just, it'll work. It doesn't. Okay. Wisdom is about a moment in which you're experiencing something and you have trillions of different variables that you have to wade through. That wisdom's the ability to walk confidently, but also curiously in those moments. Mm-hmm. And so those hard times, how do you bring a team around to unite and to be there for a family who's grieving? How do you, I don't know that I can give answers there, except that being present and being, again, curious and constant in those moments is really, really important. Okay. And I don't wish these moments on anyone. But then you have the moments where all of a sudden the sales aren't there and you've got to lay people off, or you have um, a bunch of people leave the organization and you just get wrecked, or you didn't have all the opportunity there and you had way too many people. So your cash flow was just trash because you were keeping people there. And then all of a sudden, and by the way, this is some of my story here, we had the right team. You know how it's like, oh, prepare for the opportunity ahead of you. And we did. And we had like 15 foremen. It was probably like almost 20 foremen gearing to go. We had all these opportunities in Q1, Q2, and then Q1, Q2 opportunities pushed to Q3, Q4. Doesn't seem like a big deal. You just push them back, except now you have all these projects, and we doubled the amount of projects we had to people. And, then, a lot of people getting overwhelmed and burnt out. And then how do you respond to that? Or, what do you do in those moments when you're going through the hardship? How vocal are you? And we'll talk about this stuff more, but a lot of those things in the years past that we've experienced, those hardships, the expected, experienced the hardships, the unexpected, even it was interesting, culminated to the beginning of this year where two of my top people in the organization left. And what do you do? Like, what's the next step? How do you, these are C-level people, they're gone. What's that say about me? What's that say about our culture? What's that? You start freaking out. And I could not be more proud of the team in this Q1 who has truly embodied our culture, how they walked through this hard time. And I think that's probably a good platform to digging into some of the things that we've learned in this process and in the processes in the past that have led us to be able to, even though they both who left were so great to the company, how we can continue. Right.
Yeah. Earlier, you mentioned about the wisdom, leading with that wisdom, but also in confidence, but also leading with that curiosity. And leaders often, when they get curious, curiosity can turn to introspection, and can turn to isolation, and then they get quiet and distant during difficult times. So how did what did communication look like for y'all at Ridgeline in that season when you unexpectedly, lost a team member to suicide?
Yeah. I think because I've had experienced some of those things before and seen what didn't go well in that process. And I wasn't leading a team or anything, but I knew nobody's talking. Nobody or we're all trying to keep it what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Wasn't happening. And so at that moment when that happened, the most important thing was not cash flow. The most important thing was not a project that we had that was undergoing some stress. The most important thing was our people. And in that moment, I just knew that the right thing was to call every person on our team and tell them specifically what had happened and to be there for them while they grieved. And in that moment, it wasn't like we were all external. We weren't in one building, so it wasn't like we could have that conversation.
Okay.
So
yeah, I was going to ask if it was in person, it was together as a team, or if you had to make phone calls kind of throughout the day.
Yeah, with the way social media and other things are like that today, there is no the time dilation so quick, and so I didn't want a whole bunch of people hearing it secondhand.
Yeah.
To somebody that they love dearly. And so I knew that it was impossible to get everyone to come in and talk through it. So it was a individual call to 50, 60 team members that I made. Just, hey, I just wanted to let you know what happened. This is, we're grieving. where's your head? How can I be here? Like, just let them be.
Sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. Great advice to just let your team feel through the things that they need to feel through and not leap to the resolution too quickly.
No.
Nothing. I don't think anything kills culture quicker than. And you might. Well, we don't have a team of feelers. Everyone has feelings. It's just they show them differently.
Yeah.
Right. So give whatever space. Know your team well enough to be able to give them the space that they need to process through hard times, whether it be an unexpected death or an unexpected departure from the team or whatever it looks like. Blake, can you talk a little bit about how y'all were able to be honest and direct in what you were sharing through maybe this most recent transition that you've gone through? How were y'all able to do that, like to be honest with your team without being careless or reckless?
Yeah. Teeing up to that point, I probably go back to how I didn't do it well the first time.
That sounds good. Let's do it.
And I think that there is a proclivity for leaders to hold back because there is an aspect of what you're going through and what is happening at a different level, at maybe a leadership level. And there are the times where it's like, what do I share? Because that's the hard part.
Yeah,
is
sure.
What do I share? All of it matters, but does it matter to the same degree for every person? And the answer is no, it doesn't. But a lot of times you don't want to share the bad stuff, perhaps because you think they're going to leave. It's fear-based, right? Well, if I share this, they're going to leave. Or if I share this, they're going to do this. Or, hey, your only responsibility is to the way you do it and how you present it. That's all you can control. Yeah. And so, we had a notes day where one year we had really experienced a lot of hits and a lot of hardships and did not profit at all that year. And it was a hit. And
just for context, a notes day is where the whole team gets together and basically gives notes from top to bottom on the organization of what they could do better. You've heard the phrase, there's no notes. This is the opposite. There's notes.
There's notes. Exactly. Good call. Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
So here we are, we're sitting in notes day and we shared a lot of the stuff we were going through. And it was like over past 6 months that we didn't share. And our team members, one of them raised their hand and they were like, we're not just here for the good, we're here for the bad too. And preached one of our core values back to us. They said, the core value is we build trust through candor, which means we got to be able to say the hard things too, not just the good things. We don't want to just know that things are, daisies and rainbows. We want to know that there've been some hard times because we can help. Like, we're here as well. And so that was such a good insight for us to hear, is like, it's not, you can't just share the good and expect to have a healthy culture where everybody is willing to put in. If there's no pressure, they don't feel the need to put in, right? Like their pressure helps bring opportunity, and opportunity is not always, some responsibility level change. Sometimes it's just an opportunity to step in and build to the culture of a team. And so part of what we were going through there, hearing that helped with the most recent one. And that is, as these things that were happening, we were so as one team member would turn in their notice, we talk through, what does that exit plan look like? How do we set this up in such a way that honors the person, but helps the team know we're okay? And we want to share the honest truth, because that's what building trust through candor looks like. And so that's how we started that process.
Yeah, I love that. I think, do you remember, Blake, you're not quite as old as me, but you're close enough to where you might remember a show called Spin City. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox, one of the greatest actors of our generation. I love MJF. But on that show was built around the premise of a local city government and the spin in the press room that they had to do with every kind of thing that happened. in the city, right? And so the phrase spin city, meaning, hey, how do we spin this news so that it works in our favor and not against us? And I think in today's society, more than ever, I would say this has been around for generations, but today more than ever, our society knows how to spot a fake, right? We see stuff where like, that's AI, that's not real, that's fake news, that's this, that's that's a spin on this or whatever. And we've all been a part of organizations that go, as soon as something bad happens, that was unexpected, they go, how do we spin this to our team? And I don't know where you sit on that, Blake, and I know we want to be honest without being reckless.
Yeah.
But can I just say I hate that?
Yeah.
I hate that dishonesty from the top down. And we talked last week, and we're gonna talk more about it here in a few minutes, about what you tolerate defines you. I would also say, like, it's not even just that passiveness, it's that active, like if you're actively trying to spin news in your favor, that will immediately break trust more than anyone else. And especially if it's a repeat offender. You might do it once and you go, you know what, guys, I said this, but this is actually what happened. We're not gonna spin things with you anymore, and I just want to be transparent with you as much as I can be, right? As much as I can be is a great, phrase, but we're not spinning it. We're not going like, oh, he just decided to retire, and then next week they see on social media that he's working for some other company,
Right?
Like, well, you said he was retiring.
Yeah.
And now you're caught in the lie spin cycle, right? And going like, oh, well, you know what? That's what we thought, and now you look like an idiot, And so I just want to strongly discourage the spin city mentality when news comes. Be honest without being reckless.
Well, and so that's one extreme. And the other extreme is oversharing.
Yep.
Because you're going to drip too much information into a context that doesn't understand all the information.
Correct.
And so, like, there are times that, like, the same story I would tell to my 8-year-old, I would tell it differently to my 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And I would tell it differently to my wife. And I would tell it differently and it's not that the story is a lie or hiding anything. It's that there are certain things you share with different audiences. And the art of that, I think, is truly that, an art. And it's the aspect of being kind and shrewd at the same time, right? It's a balance. And it's not so easy to be like, oh, you read this book and you'll know that balance. You won't. You will have to experience some of those things to know, I shared this last time with this, and I brought in 10 different things, 10 different variables, of which only 2 were important to that person. And it just muddied the water and caused more fear, because sometimes when you throw too much in there, confusion comes. And when confusion's there, fear abounds. Okay. So that's where I would just say the extremes of trying to spin every bad thing as if it was a great thing, be careful. Okay. Because it's actually going to make things, in the process, you could probably actually demean people who could be leaving, or demean in such a way that you really are not showing care for anyone in that except yourself.
Yeah. And you talked a minute ago, Blake, about when y'all had those moments in that notes. You had that moment in that notes day, and your team member started preaching your values.
Yeah.
Right. We talk all the time on this podcast about how, our core values, they're not just, words on a wall, or they're not just, a ping pong table in a break room. But they're actually the things that we live and breathe and execute on and through our business every single day, right? They're the anchor for us when things feel uncertain. So how else were the culture values at Ridgeline kind of an anchor for you and your team when y'all were going through those times?
Yeah. What's the idea of confirmation bias, we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
Confirmation bias, for those who don't know what that is, it is basically your reticular activating system, your RAS. It's in the back of your brain. I always touch the back of my head. I don't know why I do that, but your RAS, which is basically like this big funnel and filter that goes into all your nerve endings, and it tells you of all the information, of all the 60,000, if not more, bits of information coming into your head, what's important. Okay, so your cognitive, or not cognitive dissonance, what's the word? Bias. Confirmation bias.
Yeah.
So that comes from your brain telling something over and over, something is important or it needs to be remembered. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so like, it's the same idea that when you go car shopping in a car you really like you start looking at it, you see them everywhere out on the road. They didn't get a spike in sales. Your brain's just telling you it's important now. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, how does this answer your question? I know we're getting off.
You're good.
But when you bring this back,
I know you're going to land it.
Here's the thing. In a hard moment, trying to create a standard doesn't exist. Okay. In a hard moment, trying to set up a new value is not authentic. In a hard moment, in fact, it seems manipulative. And so the only time that you can, like, if you're trying to build for those hard moments, values that'll stand true, you have to build them in moments where the earth isn't shaking, that people can hear something over and over. We build trust through candor. Do you know why my team brought that up so quickly? Because their confirmation bias knew that thing, knew that was important. And when we were telling them something, had a cognitive dissonance, the difference between we say this, but this isn't landing, and brought it up. Okay. Their brain did that in, a fraction of a second, because over and over we build trust through candor, and we say it in different ways. We talk about it. We talk about it in everyday stuff, because I think that's the way it really gets sticky. Mm-hmm. If it's just on a wall somewhere, maybe not. But you can't create those things in the midst of the thing.
Yeah. We talked a lot on the last episode about what you tolerate defines you. We've talked a lot about that already in this episode. So I want to kind of skip to our wrap up of when these things happen. What's the proper approach, timing, questions to be asking, all that stuff for a debrief, or what someone might call like a SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, so that we can learn from it in a healthy way and apply what we learned to it for future situations. How did that look for you guys at Ridgeline when you were walking through these things?
Yeah, no, I think you hit pretty hard on like the what's and how to do those types of things. And in fact, you could probably talk about that more here in a second. I think coming out on the other side over the past 2 or 3 big hard moments that we've had in the past few years, I would say that before all the what you should do's, I would just say one of the most powerful things I've noticed is telling people they're out of a fire is equally as important when they're going through trauma or through a hard thing.
That's good.
And so, for example,
are we still in this, Mom and Dad?
Yeah.
Are we still poor?
Are like the military forces. Why did the debrief happen? The debrief started not to learn necessarily, but it's to help military people know that they are no longer in combat. Mm-hmm. And it seems like an obvious thing, but you can look in the news and you can look at all the research. It's not an obvious thing that when people are in trauma, if they are not told you are no longer in that moment and have proof of that over and over, they don't believe it. And that's why PTSD, and I mean, PTSD has a lot connected to it. So I'm not like making some generalization here, but that's why one of the things, like my brother has experienced this pretty heavily. He hears a loud noise and he responds differently. Okay. Yeah. And so, I learned when we went through the really hard time that everyone kept talking about it as if they were in it. And we no longer had 40 jobs and 20 foremen. We were down underneath a 1-to-1 ratio. but nobody was acting like it. Everyone was still acting in panic or acting in responsiveness. And I realized, oh, I need to tell everyone we're not in that moment anymore. And probably, and it needs to be a healthy way because I don't want to hurt, people's perspectives on this either. But hey guys, we're out of the hard moment.
Yeah.
Let's take a breath. Let's just accept that for a second.
Yeah.
And then the what's. And Dustin, you could probably talk to a lot of the what's.
Yeah, and I'll say too, because the reason you want to let them know that is because we act differently depending on what environment we're in.
That's right.
Right? If you're barefoot and you're walking on grass, it's a little easier. But if you're walking on gravel or glass, it's a little harder. Mm-hmm. You adapt and you behave differently because of the situation that you find yourself in. And if your team doesn't realize that they're either in or out of a situation, then they could act in such a way that damages not only your business, but your culture, which is even more important. So, I was just going to say on the debrief, I think it's important to take a moment and get your head about you before you jump into kind of like, how do we grow and what should we learn from this? And what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? Yeah. Take a moment so that you can do that well, but don't get so far from the moment that you lose the fresh perspective, right? It's like, when you hear someone say, and I'm blanking on a context here, but they'll say, "No, I want to feel this pain right now because I want to learn from it." You hear a lot of athletes talk about that. They just lost the championship in a devastating way, and they're like, "What are you going to do next?" He's like, "I don't want to do anything next. I want to feel this pain right now, so that I don't forget what this feels like, so that I can learn from it and go on." So I'm not saying you need to necessarily sit and feel, but I would capture, journal privately, right? This is not a moment to just go like, blah, and overreact. But privately or through therapy or counseling, whatever, I would just say, pick up a journal, pick up a notepad, and just start writing like, here's how I'm feeling about this. Here's some things that I thought we could probably have done better right there when it's fresh in that moment. Then let it sit for however long you need to, revisit it as a team, and then you can bring that objectively to the table as a leadership team and say, well, I know when it happened, this is how I was feeling. I either still feel that way, or after some time and thought, I can see how maybe that was the bad reaction. And you can even learn from your reaction. It's not even just learning from the thing itself that happened, right? But it's learning from the reaction too, and go like, oh, hey, my tendency is to underreact, or my tendency is to overreact, or my tendency is to retreat, or my tendency is to advance. And you can look at that and go, how did that play out? Was that good? Do it again. Next time it happens, let's do that. Let's run that play again. Or, hey, that actually hurt us worse than the thing itself, because of the way that I reacted to it, by overreacting, underreacting, retreating, advancing, whatever, and learn from that and move on. So I think it's important when it happens, Blake, to take those notes as soon as possible, and then revisit those notes objectively after the dust settles a little bit.
Yeah, this is a bumper sticker. Hard moments are hard. Okay, they're hard, but and nobody wants to experience hard moments all the time.
Yeah.
Then don't waste them. Okay.
Yeah. Don't waste a hurt.
Don't waste a hard moment by not learning from that hard moment.
Yeah.
And is there a perfect way to do that? Nope. Stay curious. I would also say stay consistent. And so in those hard moments, if you always have just that proclivity to learn of like, what do I need to get from this? So you do that internally in your head. That's one way. Having weekly cadences with your team. That's another way. Having monthly or quarterly. And if you're outside of quarterly, I'm going to just like, I don't even care what business model or whatever else you follow, that you need to be meeting more than that. Like if you're once a year, let's talk about the hard stuff, you're wasting the hard stuff. And in fact, you might be able to talk about the hard stuff because you're bringing more of it, and not learning from it. So don't waste the hard moments.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a good place to wrap up. No idea what our next episode is going to be on, but I can, with the most authentic confidence, say that it will be timely for whatever we need to talk about, whatever you need to hear. We'll talk to you next time on the Culture Based Podcast. Have a great week.